Hello, everyone, and welcome to Training Unleashed. We're going to have a great episode today. I think this episode of all will be a little bit more on target to the concept of Training Unleashed and really helping performance of your company go to the next level. Before we start, on behalf of the Learning Network, I want to welcome everyone to the show. I want to thank my sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. My guest today is Stephan Poschik, which hopefully he's giving me, for the people listening, gave me the nods and the thumbs up. I got the name right. He is with CHC, which is Corporate Health. What's the last C stand for, Stephan?
Consulting.
Consulting. Now, when I first saw that, I thought we were going to talk about healthcare. And I'm thinking, my God, everyone's going to be a little bored in this episode. Then I spent some time getting to know him and really understand what he's talking about. And he's really talking about corporate health and understanding corporate health. And before we get going, just a quick little note. Stephan has started 6 companies, 4 of which he's still operating. So he is a serial entrepreneur by definition. So I'm going to give you the softball question. I normally am known for giving hard questions, but what does corporate health mean? There's a softball. It's just lining it up for you.
Of course. So first of all, Evan, thank you so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward to talk about training and about how you can elevate your organization and corporations. So we have a very broad definition of health, and that's the reason why our company is named Corporate Health Consulting, because we are talking about the organization and the corporation needs to be healthy. So you need to have engaged employees. You need to take care of your employees, of your team members, of your organization. And this is our definition of health, of corporate health.
So what are the important, and by the way, I love engagement. And I think employee engagement is really important. And I think a lot of people, top-down leadership is old-fashioned and embracing. So we'll get into that a little bit. But what are, in terms of corporate health, what are some of the key things that you look at? What are the key KPIs to measure corporate health that are important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, we are looking at the soft side from the skills, so leadership, culture, and corporate culture. But when it comes to KPIs, okay, you need to think about, okay, what is the challenge or the problem the company is facing at the moment, or what is the goal? So where do they want to go? So is it a better employer branding? Do they need more great trained talent? Do they have problems with recruiting or with retaining their employees? So you really need to think about, okay, what is the situation I am in with my team members and where do I want to go? And this will define what KPIs you need to look at. One of the KPIs we always take a look at is, for example, turnover or sick leave. Or you can also have KPIs like the Net Promoter Score on how many people would recommend your employer and your company that they bring in friends and family to be also employed. So there are certain types of KPIs where we encourage companies that they really think about, okay, we need to have this in place. Like, okay, what is our engagement level? What is our Net Promoter Score? What is our turnover? What is our sick leave? And of course, what are the costs behind these KPIs? Because it's nice to have a KPI, but if you do not put the price tag behind this KPI, it doesn't do anything. And the real decision makers don't change anything.
So I love that. I just want to let everyone know, because I think this is kind of interesting. Yeah. The Learning Network measures employee Net Promoter Score very carefully, and very important barometer of our company health. So I think it's a great score. Yeah. You said something, not exactly, but this is what I heard, which is that people basically need to understand that there's an investment and there's a return by improving your engagement levels, improving the effectiveness, your happiness, et cetera. how do you recommend that companies actually measure that?
So the return, if they implement these KPIs, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So one opportunity would be you do quick questionnaires over the year, over and over and over again. So I'm not a friend of employee questionnaires every second year where you have dozens of questions what you need to work through. Because when you are basically questioning your employees just twice every second year, I mean, you will not get a real valuable answer in my personal experience and in my personal opinion. But for example, when you have certain questions you are asking them on a regular basis, for example, once a month, you ask 5 specific questions, you have an in-time feedback for the leaders in the company. And then basically you just need to train and you need to educate and you need to encourage the leaders to really do something with the answers they get once a month. And so based on this process behind the scenes, I want to call it, based on this process, you will have an impact on the KPIs we mentioned before.
Yeah.
And based on the results and on the KPIs, you should reward your leaders that they are sticking to the process and they are really encouraging their team members, the people in their department to increase certain areas. Yeah. And what I always love is I love to have annual goals attached to KPIs, even to the very first leadership level in the companies. So I think a lot of companies, not I think, in my personal experience, and I'm an entrepreneur since over 23 years in the meantime. So I saw a lot of companies already. I think it's a mistake when companies just have KPIs in the annual goal agreement for just the C-level management. I think every leader should have one.
So I've heard a lot of very good things, and I like to just get clarity, and I think it's good for the audience. So what I'm hearing from you is frequency is important, bringing goals down, maybe not the same exact goals, but bringing goals down throughout the whole system. So everyone's playing the game is important, and not just having goals, but making plans to improve those numbers. So you're not just looking at the numbers and, okay, our numbers are down a little bit or our numbers up a little bit, that you actually create strategies. So let's take employee net promoter score for a second. Let's just say, for sake of example, a company's got a 35, which is, by the way, for the audience, if you don't know net promoter score, that's not a terrible score, because net promoter score, it's not like an average of 35 or happy. But what would the benefit to the company be to go from a 35 to, let's say, a 60 or 70, which would be a monster score?
Of course. Yeah, of course. So the first benefit is it would completely get the revenue and the net earnings upside down in a positive way. Why? Because turnover would decrease massively. Recruiting gets so much easier and so much more seamlessly. You have a much easier time to retain your great talent. And all these things combined are so much more productive because employee engagement will be so much higher. So when you increase from a 35 to a 60 or to a 70, I mean, you have a completely different organization. A completely different organization. I just want to give you one example when you compare it to the employee engagement index. So the Gallup institution is giving out the employee engagement index once a year. And when you think about this, we have about 18% of really, really engaged employees in companies on average. On the other end of the spectrum, we have 20% of actively disengaged employees, which means they are actively sabotaging your company.
Yes.
So they are actively working against your company. And then you have about 60, 70% of, yeah, okay, I do my job 9 to 5, but really engaged and really productive, I'm not really productive. Yeah, I'm writing my 8 hours per day, but really productivity at the work is for 4, 5, 6 hours or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you are able to increase your NPS, your Net Promoter Score, you increase the engagement, you increase the engaged employees, you decrease the people who are sabotaging your company, plus people who are actively working against your company, they leave your company on their own, so you can get rid of them, or they do not even enter your company anymore.
Creating engaging, dynamic e-learning content is more important today than ever. At the Learning Network, we have created a product called Breeze. This is the latest technology in course development. It is easy to use, drag and drop, easy to build engaging content, something that you can create and be proud of, something that you can create that learners will enjoy taking. And it works on any device, totally SCORM compatible. Go to learning.net to schedule a demo today. Learning.net. No, it's a massive difference. And what's really scary is the people that end up leaving are the ones that are the most productive, because the people who are the most engaged get frustrated when they see all these people that are dead weight in the organization. So it's huge. You said something earlier, and I'm going to reference because it's a real passion, and you talked about bringing KPIs downstream, and you also mentioned earlier the importance of engaging your in company. Can you just maybe share some best practices on how to bring KPIs downstream, let's say to the lower levels, not to the next level, but really downstream?
Yeah. Of course, I can, of course. So first of all, again, you need to think about what is the goal in this department, or for this leader, what does he need to accomplish? So is it productivity? Is it revenue? So there is a process for every single company, and the beauty of this process is you can use this in every industry, in every company size, no matter if they are experienced leaders, experienced companies, whatever. So, and this process always is basically a little bit like a classical project management when you think about it. When you start a project, what do you need to have? At the beginning, you need to have a goal. What do you want to accomplish with this project? And this goal will basically determine, okay, which KPIs are you going to look at? Or which milestones are you going to look at? And what I would recommend, if you want to bring it really, really down, is, okay, you start with this, okay, what's our goal? Where do we want to go? Then you think about, okay, what are these 5 questions we should ask our team members in this department every single month? So what is an interesting information for the leader of this department where he or she can really work on, what he can use on, or he can use to change or to adapt.
So things that they can impact.
Correct. Because it doesn't make sense to ask these people something where the leader of this department has no impact and has no leverage. And then you basically say, okay, good. When we start, our status quo is, I don't know, on a scale from 1 to 5, it's, for example, 3.5. And this is also something what I would suggest highly, that you are working with a range, and you do not ask yes or no questions in your department, because yes or no, okay, I have a bad day, I no. Okay, you do not get any value out of this. Okay, and you cannot really measure it. So I would suggest you have a scale from 1 to 10, because then you have a really broad range, and you ask the same questions over and over again. And then you have, okay, for example, you start with a 5.5 in this area. Okay, next month, nothing changed. Okay, no problem. It's the first month. Okay, third month, you have a 5.6, for example. and then a 5.8, and then a 6.2. Okay, wow, now you see there is some improvement in this area, okay? And at least on an annual basis, you should rethink the questions you are asking, because it also does not make sense to ask the same questions over 5 years in a row. Yeah.
Interesting. Good point.
And is it very specific? Yes, of course it is, but it's worth it, because that's the most successful way on how you can increase massive the results and the impact your department and your team members are doing. And you can start this with a small department with just 5 people. You can do this with a huge department where you have hundreds of people and multiple different smaller departments within this big department. And you can even go into international corporations with tens of thousands of employees or even hundreds of thousands of employees. Yeah.
So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit here.
Yeah.
I know a big part of what you do is coaching.
Yes.
So maybe talk a little bit about how people coach, in particular to the KPIs, or coaching in general.
Yeah. I just take notes beside here. So when you see me looking down here, I always take notes, because I really want to go to the core of your question. So when it comes to coaching, I think the first thing, it's really important that there is a huge difference between training, education, coaching.
Yeah.
And what I see, a lot of people are mixing this up, and they say, yeah, coaching, training in the same breath. It's not the same. It's different. Training is something different than coaching. Okay. So that's the first thing.
So let's just take, because this is Training Unleashed. We got a lot of people involved in training.
Yes.
And I totally agree with you. So when I say this, I don't mean to imply I disagree, but describe the difference between training and coaching. What distinguishes them?
Yes, of course. Training, I try to get it to as easy as possible. Training is basically educating people, giving them knowledge, but on a very theoretical level. Sometimes, hopefully, also based on benchmarks, real life examples, and showing people how it could be done. But training has a starting day and an end day. That's a training for me. Coaching is basically, you have somebody who is basically guiding you on the way and who is basically going with you through this journey. And a coach has, in my personal opinion, in a lot of situations, they are going to address much more different and diverse topics, because when you are a coach and when you are a business coach, sometimes your coachee also has a private problem and wants to talk about these private problems with you. And you need to talk about this, because coaching is on a much, much more private level and communication level with the coachee. A trainer normally does not go into this personalized stuff. Okay, they have their specific area of expertise and they teach it. They are experts in this area. They hopefully are able to transfer it to the people who are in their audience, and that they can really do it and execute it on their own in the future.
Yeah. And adding on to what you're saying, it isn't coaching or training. You need training and coaching. Correct? It's got big thumbs up for the people listening.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would never ever say, hey, do either or.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I see most companies are still just focusing on training without coaching, or say, okay, yeah, look, there is a coaching opportunity. If you have any problem or any question, call XYZ, and then the problem is solved. No, so it's not.
We're going to run out of time, but I want to ask one more question, because I think it's important. Just a couple quick best practices for being an effective coach.
Yeah. Leading by example, doing what you talk. You need to have the experience you talk about, and you need to be seriously interested in your coachee's success on a professional and personal level.
I really love that second tip, because it's not a tip, the first one I've heard many times, but really caring and being attached to the outcome that you're really helping that person is a very powerful tip.
Yeah.
So Stephan, I would love to talk longer, but we only have so much time. Our audience, I'm sure by now, can tell that you have a ton of passion, a lot of knowledge, and they probably would love to know what your company CHC does, who you like to work with. So please tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for asking these really, really valuable questions, even because in your podcast, they are getting tremendous amounts of value. And this is something what not a lot of people are doing. And so thank you really for doing this and for bringing this knowledge out to the world. To your second question, of course, CHC Corporate Health Consulting. I told at the beginning of the show already how we define health. So we don't talk about nutrition or mental health. Not only mental health is also something for the future, but it comes down to the health of the organization. And there are so many things that are involved in the health of our organization. So before I go into details, so what's the core? We help corporations increase employee engagement, strengthen productivity, and have a better leadership and corporate culture. The way on how we are doing this and how we are achieving this is we are delivering world-class consulting services in the areas of HR and organizational development, and also in the areas of corporate health and corporate wellness programs and management. Now, there are a lot of different things what get into this healthy organization, what I say. So originally, to give a little bit more behind the scenes, 15 years ago, we started with corporate wellness and corporate health management. And when you look up the definition of corporate wellness, especially in the European region where I am originally from, before we expanded also to the US, you have three different things when it comes to corporate health or corporate wellness. So it's basically the health, the safety in the working environment. It's the wellness aspect. And it's basically reintegrating employees into the workforce. So if somebody had an accident in the working place, or somebody was on sick leave for 2 years because he or she experienced a burnout, or even if a mom comes back into the working environment after I'm missing the vocabulary here, when she lived with her kids and stayed with her kids.
Maternity leave?
Yeah, thank you, maternity leave. When she comes back to the working place after 2 years maternity leave. Correct.
Stephan, how many languages do you speak?
So German is my mother tongue. English, I failed so bad in school that my teacher said, you will never, ever be able to do anything in English. And a little bit Italian, but just really a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I think your English is excellent.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you have an offer, and people are going to want to know your URL. So let's share that with the audience.
Yes, of course. So so what my offer is, especially for your audience, because I really want to engage your audience to have a better working environment, have a better engagement, is I want to give them a free CHC check, which is a 45-minute completely for free consultation, what I do personally for them, to deep dive into the topics we basically discussed over the last 30 minutes, to really think about, okay, how can you improve employee engagement, have a better leadership culture, improve your KPIs, improve your revenue with all the topics what we discussed. So it's a 45-minute free consultation where I do also benchmarking with your company, because we literally in the last 15 years, we saw hundreds of corporations all around the world in the meantime. And we know where we need to look at, and we know pretty fast where are the areas of improvement. So you can either go directly to your web page, where it is www.corporate-health-consulting.com. So it's www.corporate-health-consulting.com. Or you just put check in front of it. So check.corporate-health-consulting.com. But we will also post it, if possible, with the.
Yeah, I was going to say, people who go to trainingunleashed.net, search for Stephan, and in the notes. Also, we have a YouTube channel now, Training Unleashed Network. You can also find the information out there that way. I will say, because I do research every guest, that you guys, you do corporate consulting, you do coaching, you also have online content. So, there's a lot more than you can possibly explain. But I love your passion and your enthusiasm around these topics, because these soft skills, as you mentioned earlier, are incredibly important for effectiveness of organizations, because great organizations are able to change, to innovate, to grow, to inspire. And you don't do that with a workplace that is unenthusiastic, for sure. Stephan, as you know, we always end the show. If you have one tip, what would that one tip be? Oh, if someone wants to take your 45-minute checkup, they go to the website, but they probably need your email. How do they reach you for the checkup?
Yeah. They can sign up for the checkup directly on this page. So check.corporatehealthconsulting.com. They have a schedule. They can directly jump, okay, I want to have Wednesday at 10 a.m. And they are scheduled with me personally.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, your one tip.
One tip, lead by example.
Great tip.
It's the single most important thing I do in my organizations. I experienced in my life. I experienced with my son, who is 18 in the meantime. I do in my projects and in the coachings, and every successful leader should do.
Well, Stephan, thank you very much. On behalf of the Learning Network, appreciate having you as a guest. We appreciate our listeners. Thank our sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio, and remind everyone to check us out on our YouTube channel, trainingunleashed.net. Everyone have a great day.